So we all seen those product visions of companies that have really cool goals of what they want to achieve in the future. Just think, for example, SpaceX. It has one of the most appealing visions that you can imagine. You might agree or not with their vision, that's a different story, but you cannot deny that their vision is really a motivating thing for quite many people out there. But in order to get to that vision, you need a product strategy. Product strategy is going to define what are the most important things for you to actually get to that vision. Let's talk about it. So please, first of all, don't confuse product vision with product strategy. The vision is the place where you want to go. The product strategy is going to tell you what are the most important things for you to get to that vision. That is how product vision and product strategy are linked. And of course, if you think one step forward, then your roadmap is going to indicate you the path to get to that product vision, aligning to that product strategy that you have just defined. So there are going to be several aspects that you are going to have to take into account when you are defining your product strategy. So before I start, have you defined your product strategy? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want to share it with us, hey, just link it or just comment below what are your strategic areas. The first one is that you have to identify who your user personas are. Who are your target customers, user personas? They are not always exactly the same people, but it's important and it's very, very key for you to have them identified. This might also require you to define what are the areas where those people are, like geographical areas. This is very important. It might be also demographics that you also have to define. It's very important that you understand this. You are going to be much more likely to be successful if you understand better who you are serving. And you can do this typically through some kind of market research. Second one is that you really have to understand your value proposition. How are you bringing value to those users? What is the value that those users get when they are using your product? This is really, really important, obviously, because this is why your users are going to use your product. They're not going to use it because they have these 20 features or 100 features. That doesn't matter to anybody. They are going to use your product because it's solving some problem. That value that you are bringing to them. So what is very important here is that you are able to also identify in this value proposition, what is your USP and your KSP. USP being the unique selling proposition and the KSP being the key selling proposition. These are very important because these are going to help you understand how you are differentiating yourself from other potential competitors. If you are only talking about USPs, unique selling points, means that probably your competitors they don't exist or they just don't have your capabilities. And if you have key selling points, means that you are substantially better at doing certain things or bringing certain value to your customers than your competitors. These are areas where you're really strong compared to your competitors. These are the areas that you want to emphasize also in your product strategy. Understanding and defining your go-to-market strategy is going to be key for you to have a successful product strategy. What is your go-to-market strategy? With your go-to-market strategy, what you're defining is how you are going to reach to your customers, how you're going to promote your product, how you're going to price your product, how you're going to sell your product, what are the channels where they can find it, how you support your product, how people can find help or documentation around the product that you are delivering to them. This is very key to have defined because this is going to define if you are going to do product-led sales. So does your product sell itself? Like for example, Notion, where people just purchase a license and start using it and they grow over time until then they move to an enterprise license where then they typically go and talk with a salesperson that is going to help them to purchase more licenses? Or is it a product that actually always requires a one-to-one sale? That there's always a person that actually is going to sell you that product and then assign it to you. It is very important that you understand this because this is going to define what is the strategy of actually growing and selling and going to the market with your product. Think, for example, Tesla. Tesla has decided that they're not going to sell through dealerships. They sell directly to the users, the cars that they are building. They're just skipping that part. That's a very important part of the product strategy. Another very important part of the strategy, especially in the beginning, was to build a supercharger network because they knew that out there was no way to charge your cars when you were driving around the roads. So what they committed to do is that, hey, we know that you want to use electric cars. We know that it's not easy because you just plug them at home. So basically you just can go as far as you can go from your home and then back to home because it's very difficult to charge in any other place. What we are going to do is put those places where you can charge along the roads. That was a key success for Tesla. And they are still, of course, expanding this. So it's not as important part of the strategy as it used to be. Still as a very important part of the strategy, because in some countries, especially if you think outside of the US, the charging infrastructure is not really good. So Tesla still has to promote this part of the strategy to make the adoption of Teslas successful in other countries. Basically, what they are doing here is that they are trying to help people adopting their products. Something that is not always considered part of a strategy is the design of your product. You can consider the design of the product separately, or you can consider it part of the strategy. I like kind of considering it part of the strategy, because then you're bringing a lot of focus in that area. Understanding what kind of interaction and what kind of experience your users had to have. I think that is very key to have that defined from the get-go, so people understand that what is the goal of how we ideally envision the interactions of our users with our products. And again, strategies can change over time, so that's something that needs to be reviewed every now and then. Another key part of understanding your product strategy or defining your product strategy is going to be that you have defined what is the customer journey for the users that are starting to use your product. If you understand what are the steps that a customer is going to go through, you will know what are the gaps that you had to fill. This is relatively similar to the go-to-market, but basically what you want to do is that, okay, I want to define that experience for my users. I want to define how they are going to be using the product, at least in an ideal world. And then I want to identify what are the bigger gaps that I need to put a lot of effort potentially in order to get there. These are usually going to define or help you define those strategic areas that you know you had to do this in order to be successful. That's not just one part, of course. That's just more in the adoption and in the promotion part and in the consumption or buying the product. But also you will have to do the same in the value proposition. What are the value propositions that you have in your product? And what are the biggest gaps that I have there? These are the areas that I want to put as part of my strategy, because I know that I need to do a lot of work in those areas. So what are the important things of having a product strategy? So probably the most important one is to bring focus to your teams. Bring focus for them to understand what are the most important and critical things to do for them in order to fulfill what is, or to get the product to that vision. This is going to help your product managers, your product designers, your software engineers to prioritize that work when they understand that, hey, what we had to concentrate is to build, an e-commerce platform in order to sell our products. This is what is very important for you. You need to do it part of your product strategy. That's going to bring the priority to that area. Of course, it's also going to help that people are not just running in different directions and trying to solve every single problem that they could have imagined, but also just focus on the areas that are most important. This is also going to help other teams to understand a lot what you're trying to achieve with your product. If you think about the communication that you have, not just within your team, especially if you think about your product creation, product development team, product management team, or those are different things, obviously. But those ones, probably they will have a relatively good understanding. But it's very good that you publish your product strategy to the rest of the company so everybody is aligned. Everybody understands what is that you need to do, why are you putting your priorities there, and then for them to understand that, hey, if I'm bringing something that is not aligning with the product strategy, most likely it's not going to get done because it's not the most important thing. Another very important aspect of your product strategy is that you cannot just say that this is my product strategy. You also have to align and agree with management team and with potentially certain parts of the company. So everybody aligns that, hey, this is the way that we go. Our product strategy is going to last typically for a couple of years. This is the area that we're going to focus, or the areas that we're going to focus. We will review it maybe once a year, however often you review it. Probably not much more often than that. Then that's going to bring the focus, is going to bring on board management, C-level, whoever. But basically everybody is going to be on board with that strategy. So whenever somebody is potentially arguing or thinking if that strategy is the correct one or not, that strategy has been backed by not just the product team, but also by other members in the company. Also, it's very important that you define your product strategy because you can also use it with external people. You can use it with your customers so they understand what are the key areas for you that you want to focus on that are going to help succeed the product. If the customers buy in, then every time that you do a release and you are aligning with that product strategy, everybody's going to be like, yeah, they are doing what they said they will do. That's what you wanted to do. Don't promise features because it's always difficult to deliver those ones. It's easier to actually promise a strategy. Then you will deliver the features that support that strategy. Much more important and much easier message to convey to your customers. As well, if you're a startup, this is also going to help you talking with your investors. If you have a clear strategy, something that they can understand that is not complicated for them and that it shows that yeah, these are the logical steps for them to get from where they are now to actually the vision of the product, then they're going to get much easier buy-in. And when you think about a startup or if you're thinking about investors, you can also think about internal investors, somebody that has to promote your project. So for example, a CPO or a CEO that you are kind of selling internally the idea to that person. When you're defining the product strategy, pay attention that you don't have too many points. It's better that you have a relatively few strategic areas, like 4 or 5. I wouldn't have much more than that usually. So you stay focused and you don't dilute yourself too much over too many different areas. Your strategy is going to change over time. So as your product evolves, gathers more traction, more customers, your product strategy is going to change. So maybe in the beginning, your strategies are focused more on how to deliver your value proposition. In later stages, your product strategy might be focusing much more on growth, for example, on how do I expand to different geographical areas? How do I localize my product to serve different needs in different, not just markets, but maybe industries or even new types of customers. You want to then adapt the strategy and make sure that every now and then, when you are achieving certain of those goals, you have reviews of the strategy. Typically once a year is a good reason to have that review of the strategy. Sit down. Are these goals still valid? No, we had to move into certain new directions. We already have achieved these ones. Let's define the new strategy. This is a little bit like the build, measure, learn framework from Eric Rice, where you are actually building all the time, measuring the results with data as much as possible, also with interviews with customers, and then learn from those measurements and adapt and build a new strategy. Basically, you can take that framework for anything. It's not just about building, like executing a product. You can also do it for your planning, your strategy, and so on. As I said earlier, product strategy is very linked to the product vision. Product strategy is going to be the one that defines those key areas for you to achieve that vision. If you want to hear more about product vision, go check out this video. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps massively for me to continue doing these videos. I will see you in the next one. And remember, stay safe.